off your engine! Monster T3K says, is 0W16 oil safe to use in my Jeep? If your Jeep, say, takes 0W20 oil, yes, you can. But you got to make sure that you're getting the GF6A oil, because that's backwards compatible. Now, there's also the GF6B, and the GF6B oil is only for the cars that's made for, the brand new ones. Now, as I read your question a little bit further, I can see that it's a 2017. Yes, you can definitely use the GF6A. Don't use the B, because it wasn't made for that. The B is made for ones that they say it's made for, the 0W16 oils. The reason they made the GF6A oil is because they realized that there's people that want to use this high-quality oil. It's one of the highest quality oils out there, and they want to use it in some older cars, not ancient cars. You're not going to be using a car that was supposed to use, 2040 oil, really old ones, but ones that are modern enough that they take a lightweight oil. You can use them in that, but do not use the GF6B oil. That's only for the modern ones that say use the GF6B oil. It's a specialty oil, and it's not backwards compatible. You got to get the GF6A. If you have any questions when you're buying it, ask the guys, is this GF6A or B? And if they say they don't know, go someplace else. Because if they're selling it, they should know what they're selling. Here we go with airbags again. Volvo is recalling up to 54,000 cars because the airbags have killed somebody. Now, this is the first person that's been killed by them, and they are older Volvos, too. Kind of ironic. Volvo was always saying they're the number one in safety. Well, now their airbags are having problems. And it wasn't Takata. It was ZFTRW company that made these airbags. Not the Takata airbags. It's a different company that made them. It's the older S80 from 2001 to 2003. But being Volvos, a lot of them are still on the road, and they're going to have to recall an awful lot of them. Now, the Takata airbags, they recalled 63 million because of 26 people dying worldwide. It's a very small thing. It's not as dangerous as people are trying to portray it. Now, in the United States, they're saying there's still 13,800 of these old Volvos going along the road that are still being driven that have these particular airbags that are the ones that killed the one man in the United States. So if you own a 2001 to 2003 Volvo S60 or S80, yeah, we're going to recall them. Of course, it takes a while for them to get it up. So, you might be a little leery about driving it fast and getting in a wreck. Or maybe it's an old vehicle to begin with. The interesting thing is the majority of airbag deaths in the United States occur in Florida. Well, the old people are, of course. Old people are more fragile than young people. I guess if you whacked me in the head, I'm not that old yet. I could probably take it. I used to play ice hockey, had teeth knocked out. But when you get really old and an airbag explodes, it could certainly conk you out. Even a normal airbag. People get this weird idea about airbags. They think it's like a soft landing. No, they aren't. You can get bruised from them even when they work correctly. That's why using seatbelts is a really good idea. Even a seatbelt, it's going to grab you. I was in a car once that got in a wreck, and man, my ribs were sore for a month because it grabbed me and it kept me from getting any serious injuries, but geez, it really bruised my ribs. So none of this is something that's a soft landing. With Volvo now, they're going to be recalling all those old S80s and S60s because the airbags could explode and they just killed somebody in the United States. Here's some odd transportation news. Elon Musk's Boring Company is going to join Tesla in Austin for a new tunnel project. Now, I'm not being prejudiced here saying that Elon Musk's company is boring. He actually has a boring company that bores holes, makes tunnels, right? Well, I don't know. Here we go again with this futuristic stuff. Now, I spent a lot of time in Austin. It's a beautiful city. You take the kids there all the time on vacations. Austin is like a lot of Texas. As the song goes, it's flooding time in Texas. It floods a lot there. The idea of boring tunnels and people driving in them, maybe not such a smart idea in Austin, Texas, to be putting tunnels underground. Now they are, because they say, well, the ground there, the chalk and stuff that's in it, makes it great for boring, and they make a tunnel. Yeah, you can make a tunnel, but the odds are the thing's going to flood, Does anybody look at the overall picture anymore of anything? The problem with Austin, of course, is ages ago, it was a smaller place and people loved it. They'd have signs, keep Austin weird. They liked doing oddball stuff. But with all the high-tech stuff from California that came in, it's very crowded, it's very expensive, and there's massive traffic jams because people came in, but they didn't build the road infrastructure much better, so there's always giant traffic jams. So they're trying to figure out a way to make tunnels and stuff to bypass it. Well, I don't think that's such a hot idea in a place where it floods when it rains. No, it doesn't rain all the time. It's semi-arid, but when it does, it floods. So maybe not such a smart idea to be driving in a tunnel in Austin, Texas, if there's a flash flood coming from the hills. Here we go. GM is recalling 217,000 vehicles for transmission leaks. If you remember, a short time ago, I made a video about the new Corvettes having automatic transmission leaks and you can't get the parts for it. Well, this is a different recall, and this one's really bizarre. It turns out that when they built these things, they may not have put 2 bolts in on the transmission, the part that does that stupid start-stop system. And then the fluid will leak out because the bolts aren't there. Now, if you remember what I've said before, I don't like the stop-start technology anyways because it wears your engine out, it wears your battery out, wears all kinds of things out. But now, because of that design, they didn't even build it right. They left bolts out and the transmission fluids can leak out of the vehicles. Now this affects a bunch of 2018 to 2020 GM products. As I've said before, the quality control at GM is weak. If it's weak enough that they're not even putting bolts in the transmission when they're building them, that really says it all about that company. Oh, look, we have high tech, we have start-stop technology, but they can't even put bolts in the bottom of the transmission when they're building the things. That just, to me, says something's really wrong with this company. Big reason I tell people, don't buy their products until they come and start building them correctly and not having problems like this. I mean, they had transmission leaks in their super expensive mid-engine Corvettes that they just came out with. Now with a bunch of their normal vehicles here, they're not building them right. They got some serious problems. They need to fix these problems if they expect people to buy their products. That's all I got to say about that. Now here's an interesting bit of future technology. It isn't coming from old Elon Musk and Tesla. It's coming from Volkswagen. They want to turn a Greek island into an electric car utopia, where they're going to make everything electronic, where they use solar panels and wind power to create the electricity, and all the vehicles will be electronic. It's the Greek island of Astapalia, and they've cut a deal with Volkswagen. They didn't say exactly when it's going to start, that they're going to get rid of all their internal combustion engines and replace everything with electric vehicles. They'll have a charging infrastructure, electric cars, electric trucks, electric scooters, electric bikes, everything is going to be electric. And they say they're going to try this project out for 6 years to really test it out to see how it performs. Smart idea on Volkswagen's behalf. It's going to take a long time to really switch all the cars and all the countries into electricity. Why not do it on an island where you can control the whole thing? Now, it's not a gigantic island. They're going to be replacing 1,500 gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles and replacing them with electric vehicles. Now, the island only has 1,300 residents, but it has 72,000 visitors every year, so it'll be an interesting thing to see how it works with the tourist industry. And as I said, they're going to, once they get it running, they're going to try it for 6 years to see how it works out. So, kudos to Volkswagen to trying something in the real world, to test it out, to get the bugs out of it. Let them get the bugs out of it on this tiny little tourist island, and not with millions of people where millions of people get stranded. Get the bugs out first, then sell it to the mass market. That makes a lot of sense, Volkswagen. Leon Jarrett says, we got a 1983 Yamaha Virago X V750 motorcycle. How do you unseize an engine? Well, if an engine's seized up and the pistons are locked in place and it won't turn around, all engines, you can try to unseize them the same way. Often you're going to have to pull the head and take them apart. It's going to be a massive mess. But the best way to try is to take all the spark plugs out and get a bottle of Marvel Mystery Oil. It's one of the best lubrication oils out there. Then you pour them in the cylinders. Let it sit for 3 or 4 days, a week if you got the time. I mean, if it seizes, it's probably been that way for a long time. Let it soak, and that's going to penetrate everything. Then you try to turn the engine over. Now, with a car, you would get a giant extension bar and a socket, put it on the middle of the crank bolt, and try to turn it over by hand. Or if you have an impact wrench, put that on and try to turn it over. But a motorcycle actually is somewhat easier to do, because on a motorcycle, you could pull the clutch in, put it in like second gear, and have 2 or 3 guys push you. And then when you get going as fast as you can get going, 4 or 5 miles an hour, then pop the clutch and see if that and the weight of the motorcycle will start to turn the engine over. And if it does, it unseized it. Now, if it doesn't, well, then odds are you're going to have to take the whole engine apart, because if the piston rings are seized in, it's locked in, you're going to have to rebuild the engine. It could be a real stinker. But Marvel Mystery Oil is an amazing oil. I've been using it for decades, and it will get around piston rings. It can unseize rust. It's really an amazing product. So try that and pray. And if it works, you can thank Scotty for getting your motorcycle going again without having to tear it apart. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.